Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Resilience Resourcing Podcast. This is a connection space where badass women share their real on their way to resilience. Each week, I have the pleasure of spotlighting women dominating in a diverse landscape of fields ranging from performance neurotraining to film and all in between. You will get to know the unique qualities these women each carry and how connecting with these empowering women's stories bring about camaraderie and in turn empower you towards your unique dreams and goals.
Felt ashamed of this, but the way that I can still do this and I have to catch myself, it's very easy to judge anybody that has a following or a career that's in the spotlight, whether it's in politics. I've seen how people, judge and condemn and curse and cuss and our presidents to our political leaders to, whether male or female, it's just, you can see that. But also I remember growing up and trying in high school being like, oh guys, we can't gossip. Like, let's not gossip anybody else. And when somebody would say something, I remember coming in with this attitude of like, well, they actually are this. And people would get annoyed, be like, oh, Ari, like, you're just like, it's fine, but it's true. Like, you could just agree with us that it's true about them. I was like, well, let's talk about their good qualities and let's not talk about that. And then pretty obnoxious. And then, but I remember,
but that shouldn't be obnoxious. Let me just say that for a second,
true.
Because I think that is the thing that our culture has become. It's obnoxious to be the person to not follow the status quo. That's what's seen as obnoxious, but truly that's a level of integrity within yourself that I think people would project and often say, oh, you think you're better. I had people do that to me. But really it's projection of their own insecurity. And when it comes down to it, you being solid in your standards and what you're okay with, that integrity, that's the thing. That's why I admire you. It's not because you're perfect. It's because you stand in integrity in those ways.
Thank you. But let me finish the story. I mean, that is not where I ended, sadly. I definitely had moments where I was like, oh, super ugly Ari, where I was like seeing certain celebrities, especially reality stars or certain political leaders or celebrities that were doing things that I thought were wrong or inappropriate or sending a bad message, and just feeling like, oh, I can get on the bandwagon with just like looking down on them and being, disappointed in them and feeling like, oh, wow, guys, like, definitely we don't want to look like that. We don't want to do this. And like, ooh, they got a boob job, or ooh, they got a nose job, or ooh, they got a whatever. And then that was, I don't remember how many years ago, where I was like, had this super, sometimes God talks to me in a very kind, disciplinary way. He's just like, I have some beef with you, Ari. Like, I actually have to talk to you about something. And it's this, I started, but the way he did it was a good progression of just like giving me dreams about these people. But in the dreams, they were all my friend. And they're my friends. And I remember, being like, wow, I could never speak like that about somebody that was my friend. Like if I was, I'll give a random example, but like if I was Khloe Kardashian's friend and like childhood friend, would I ever speak poorly about her? No, I wouldn't. And if I did, I wasn't a very good friend, and then just being like, people change their body images and people do this and people do that. And it's like, it's none of my business. Like, honestly, all I have to do is just say, I love you. And I will only continue encouraging you to love your body, to love yourself, to let God love you and tell you what he likes about you so that you can really believe those things about yourself, because I can't do it enough and neither can anybody else around you. As we know, it's just not fulfilling enough. But I remember just feeling so convicted. And I mean, I was like, I let the shame sit there for a second because I was just like, oh, Ari, what happened to you? Like, why would you ever allow yourself to have those thoughts about these people? And like, I was always going around, and like, bad mouthing or like posting anything inappropriate about it. You don't want to do that in your career anyway, but just feeling like even my thoughts were so like just rude and just not loving and not uplifting and not thinking the best. And I was like, I miss that girl that used to think the best of people and find it, even if she knows, yes, maybe that's not the healthiest thing to do, or maybe that's something that is going to have consequences later on, but still, like, would I ever speak about them inappropriately? And like, I was like, wow, your thoughts need to have some serious readjustment. And I started seeing celebrities and I don't know where the progression happened or how many years. It's just, I don't know, but I just remember started seeing celebrities and just being like, well, what's the best about, like, they probably have so many qualities about them that I have no clue about. And I don't know the full story. I don't know their insecurities or what they're working on or working through, or what, maybe they gave into social pressure like I did, where I'm like, I'm wearing this or doing that or saying this because of my, my own peer pressure insecurities. And so I'm like, people just, they're human. And I was like, I just want to see them as a really dear friend that would protect their reputations. So that's kind of how I've been trying to live my life since. And it is, I mean, it's not easy because there are some things that are really just like behaviors that are just like, wow, I do not agree with that,
especially there can be things ways that we see in others. That's something I learned in therapy is that there's things, the word projection, I'd never even heard that. And I was like, what in the world does that mean? But projection is when we see something in someone else that makes us uncomfortable because it's like a mirror to us. And so we're projecting that uncomfortableness that we're feeling because we see that mirror of like, crap, like I'm capable of that, or maybe I've done that before, or whatever. And it's like projecting that back onto them. And, I was really convicted in that with kind of corny movie, but the Jesus movie that's out.
Oh yeah, you're telling me that.
It really just impacted me in that way because it was showing, I think Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, like the big, some big Christian artists, and Amy Grant. I know Amy Grant most for her Christmas music because I've always loved Christmas music, and there was a little bit Steve Chris Chapman in there, which star always has been. But they were showing like what she went through, like what Amy Grant went through, and what people were saying. I think it was even Michael W. Smith. They were showing a lot of the like Christian artists that made it maybe to the top in certain ways got really pushed down by other sects of Christianity or people because of struggles that they've had with sin. And it really pointed out like just because you have a role that everybody can see, whether your skill is singing and you've made it to whatever, doesn't mean that you all of a sudden are perfect and you don't struggle and you don't have sin. And
gosh, I wish, right?
Yeah, but like that's where I think the humility has to come, is like we quickly, and I talked about this in my last podcast with Ashley, she brought this up, about how easy it is for us to idolize people, and even within the church, within any role. We were specifically talking about the church. We kind of are, I think she had the same experience that I did, and I would be shocked if you didn't have that experience, of idolizing leaders within the church. You start to put them on a pedestal, and as soon as you put somebody on that kind of a out of a reach kind of a place from where you see them as better than you in whatever way, or as something that you might not be able to achieve, or as perfect, like you talked about struggling with perfectionism. Like once you put somebody on that pedestal, it almost allows yourself in some way to distance them, like you said, not to see them as a friend or as a human, or as somebody that has the same struggles as everybody else. Like, and so it kind of almost, that's such a human. I think it doesn't even if you're not a Christian or you don't hold the same values, like just in general, the way we treat people. I saw Kristen Bell. I love her, and I saw she posted something yesterday about like, and I think it was like a repost, but it was basically like people, I just scrolled through my feed and, oh, look, I saw some people I don't agree with. I wasn't offended. I didn't post something mean back to them.
Love it.
Going on with my day. And it's like,
love it.
Have just like, and I love them and I'm still friends with them. Like, and I think that is really what it's all about.
It's true. It's like Ellen DeGeneres when she went to a game with George W. Bush, and she got so much slack for that because everyone was like, oh my gosh, how could you ever? And it's like, can't we just have friends with people of different lifestyles and perspectives? Like, honestly, I've been talking about this a lot because of the cultural phenomenon that is the internet, social media, and just kind of this entitlement. Yes, this entitlement cancel culture of like, I get to decide what everybody should do and shouldn't do. And I get to decide what is right and wrong. And I'm like, of course, we should all have these kind of convictions and lifestyles that we live from based on our ultimate truths. And hopefully we're all still seeking what the ultimate truth is and not just being settled with like, oh, this is what it is. You know, it should be a constant search, because as soon as you think you've arrived, I don't know about you, but me, I'm like, the more I learn, the less I realize I know. I'm like,
that's the biggest thing. That's what I said when I graduated from college. I'm like, people literally before college, I was like, I know it all. I know everything. I'm smart. You graduate from college and you're like, I know nothing.
Yeah. And then I find myself again being like, oh, I think I know what this is. I think I figured it out. I've got it. Now I'm going to share it with the world. And it's like, okay, but that's probably, if you're correct, that's probably literally the tiniest sliver on a very huge deal, an issue that you need to really continue for the rest of your life understanding. It's like, oh, that's really okay, cool. But back to how we see other people and other human beings, like you, I think that's a great point that you were saying about seeing them as humans. But it's really, I kind of equate, you know, celebrity culture and prostitution. It's not great, but it's pretty accurate, where it's like you see prostitutes and you oftentimes we're judging their behaviors, what they're wearing, why they're here, like they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and like and it's disgusting and it makes us uncomfortable, and but there's also just like this feeling of like they're sellouts, they're whatever, all the negative things that we think about celebrity culture. We do the same thing with prostitution, versus being able to see, like, I don't know about you, but I've met a few prostitutes and they're all very like really hurting people and human beings like me. And I'm like, oh wow, they also, some people would say, all right, you're prostituting yourself out. Like, as an actor, we have to self-promote, we have to put our pictures everywhere, we have to like try and get jobs, we have to like network and get people to buy onto this idea that it's Arianna America as a product. Is she a good investment, you know? And it's
I never even thought about that. That is like, because you have to sell yourself literally.
Yes, it's a very weird culture that you just feel like, you know, and so much of it is you know, it's not fun, and it's kind of humiliating and embarrassing to be like, hey, how many photos do you have of you in your car of just your face with a list of resume like items on the back of it of everything you've ever done? It's like, who else has that in their car? Like,
I know,
only actors. It's like, oh,
other people have like a card of their information, but you have like your literal face. Like, here, I will sell you this.
I know, and it's like huge 5x8. Like, it's not the greatest. I have to tell you, it's like, wow, I love, like, I literally think my job is so ironic sometimes, and like people like glamorize it. I'm like, seriously, like, it's not as it's quite,
it probably makes you feel a little bit like
a piece of
I'm trying not to use this word, but this is the word that comes to my mind, like pitiful in some ways.
Yeah.
Because of how like you have to be like, please take me. Like,
yes. Like, I'm good enough, I promise. I'll do a good job. I'll do a great job. I know. It's so weird.
I mean, I've done a number of interviews, you know, within like 1 week or something. And I'm like, after a certain amount, I'm just like over it, because I'm like, either you want me or you don't. Like, I can't imagine that. Like,
I know. It is literally, that's what I'm saying, the most rejection you'll ever experience for the littlest minute details that don't even matter to anybody else. But again, it's just like, oh, I have it. If you don't like my photo that is here for you for your convenience, you can go to my website and there's videos of me and pictures of me, and I'm singing and I'm dancing and I'm doing cartwheels and I'm doing clowning and I'm doing juggling and these are all of my talents.
You want me to be, just go on the website. I have many roles. Oh,
literally so funny. It is a joke, but it's also a life career. Reality. It's so funny to me But I'm like, honestly, if I didn't love doing all these things, and I was like, maybe people have an identity crisis, and that's why we become actors, because we don't want to just settle for one thing. We're like, I want to be you and you and you and you.
That actually makes sense. I've always been had a hard time figuring out one career or one thing, so maybe I should.
Yeah. Oh, tell me to join us. It's great.
I'm good. I would not do well in that.
No, it's true though. Actually, that's one of the reasons. I was like, I don't want to just like spend 10 years becoming a doctor. Like, I just want to play a doctor.
Yeah, you can play. People ask you what you do for a living. Well, I'm a doctor. Sometimes I'm a lawyer. Sometimes,
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm like,
a little bit of everything.
Like, what's your role? I'm like, I'd say to a lot of people that if I wasn't doing acting, I'd probably be a psychologist, because I've had to study people for my career, my whole life. I've just like studying how they talk, why they say what they do. I literally make up diaries of like, what is this character's life and their story and their history, and like, what traumas have they had.
That is the thing that I've always like, being able to be, you have to study like a lot to be able to take on roles.
Yeah. I mean, you never stop studying as an actor too, which I think is what part of the draw is for me, because you're always learning more about like behaviors and like, why do people have these tics, and what are like, I remember being a part of this group of women, and it was like a recovery group that of like things that they had gone through in their life, and or where they were just trying to like have community, or people were just super honest and real, and like it was led by a therapist, which was awesome, because I was like, oh, I love therapy. Yes, get me a free therapist. Let me get involved in this. So I got involved in this group, and it was fascinating because, and I still like will join it sometimes because I'm like, this is so great. It's just like literally divulging of like all of our insecurities, all of our pains or traumas or struggles or battles or whatever. And it's just like, everybody's kind of in the same boat, all different lives, like walks. Some are moms, some are single, some are like, some have like, some were like alcoholics, some were like, oh, I'm struggling with my marriage, some are struggling. It's just tons of things. Yeah. It was amazing.
Is it Celebrate Recovery?
No.
Okay.
But they do have some, it's similar to that, I'm sure, but for women in like just all different walks, that like, it's different. It's not alcohol. Like, I'm not an alcoholic, but I would join it just to learn about it. But I was like, but it's just, yeah, but I was like, oh, learning a lot about you, Ari. No, literally don't drink. That's one of my things here in LA.
You're like the only friend I have in my life that doesn't drink.
Really? Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
Not
it's probably pretty rare.
Not meaning bad to any other friend. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
I don't drink because of watching family go through that, but
smart. Honestly, if it's a family history thing, it's
but
smart.
A lot of people, it's just very rare to find people, unless they've been an alcoholic, to not
quitting,
decide not to drink. But
yeah, it's true. But I just remember being a part of this group and looking at some of them would hold their heads a certain way and like would talk. Someone would like smile talk the whole way through it, and you're just wondering, you're like, wow, like there is so much going on behind. And I would literally like take. I was like, they'll never know. But I was like, I'm watching you because you are a study for me. But and I remember, again, it's like the studying never stops. Like I remember being in classes when I first got to LA and just being so out of my element with the types of form of study of like, it's more than just like, Meisner method or the Stanislavski method. It's more like, I mean, I had a teacher, her name is Diane Menor. She was amazing. She was like in so many amazing movies. And she's brilliant, but she was like, she's like, I have been studied with, she's like, I studied with all the masters, and she would go in every class that was extremely like I don't know, just intense, really intense. Like you go there and she makes you feel about this big. And I was like, wow, this is really great for me because I need to get better. But I was like, it's painful because you can study and think you're doing it right. And you answer her question. She's like, wrong. I was like, okay. So I can't, and she like, try to answer it again. I was like, is it this? And she's like, wrong again. so intense. Like, but I remember feeling super prepared when I went to London, to RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, for a class that they had there in the summer. And I remember being trained there and feeling like, wow, like this is why all the Australians and Brits are getting the jobs, because I was like, luckily Diane Menora totally prepared me for this, because I was super nervous going into this class, and I was like, I'm going to be surrounded by all these amazing Brits that are going to have way more training, way more experience than me. It's like just an honor just to even get into the class. But I just remember feeling like super prepared because of what Diana Benora did. But boy, does she just like, it's never enough though. Like, she's trained you to think that it's never enough. And so you constantly have to grow and grow and get better and get better. And she's like, take clowning. She's like, this is what we learned in our clowning class. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I have clowning under my belt. And I was like, but it's so like,
it's probably like I would wonder if it's like, you know, it makes me think, because I've been having a couple people at work recently say something about me having a smirk, and my whole family has always said stuff about me.
You do have a smirk,
and I just naturally do. Like, I wouldn't know really if I was doing that, but I think that that's probably part of it, is that you study how you don't know how you naturally react, or like your facial expressions, or like how you come off when you're saying or doing certain things. So you probably have to spend, I would guess, a lot of time in the mirror and kind of studying yourself.
Embarrassing enough. We've all practiced the kiss in the mirror. No.
I didn't even think about that.
No,
oh my God.
I mean, they say the best thing is to practice on your own hands. So just so you know. But yeah, for next time, Holly. For next time. But no, definitely. Oh my gosh, so much. That's again one of the weird things. So like the studying part, like I said, is for it just breaks down your own self-confidence all the time. Just being like, okay, like I'm never going to be enough at this. And it should actually be a relief, because instead of like the perfectionism that I come from, of wanting to break down, like, if I'm not perfect, I don't want to do it. Or if I'm not perfect enough, like I'm going to feel so much shame, or I'm just going to like, you know, kind of, I don't know. I'm just going to feel like I'm always walking around with this, like, how do I please people to make sure that I am getting the validation that I need to make sure that I'm perfect enough. And it's like, once you realize like, oh, you're never going to be enough, and that's okay. Like, the only thing that qualifies you enough is that you're loved by God, and that God made you in his image. And so therefore you're already perfected as it is. It doesn't mean we can't be healthy. Doesn't mean we can't learn. Doesn't mean we can't grow, or like, you know, glean information, but it just means that so not about your works and what you do. It's like, he doesn't need my help. He partners with me to love on me, like to give me purpose and to give me inspiration and to like show me like we're in relationship. Because again, he's not just my dad, he's also my brother, he's also our lover, you know. And so the idea of like partnership with God looks like doing things as a team. Yeah, because sometimes we just see God as like our dad who tells us what to do, but it's like, no, he's also like, we're called the bride, and the bride partners with the bridegroom to do stuff together. It's like, what do we want to do today? Like, do you want to get involved with me about this, like with this or that? You know, like, I'm inviting you into stuff. It's inviting me into partnership with, you know, I want you to talk to this person and be their friend, and just be my hands and feet to them, and like hold them and hug them. And it'll be a hug and embrace from Jesus, from both of us, Ari, you know. And it's this cool.
That's why he says, whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. He talks like about being like the one who is him, like on earth, and as acting in unison with him in that kind of way. But I love the way you're describing that, because it reminds me of I'm gonna be a dork, Stephen Curtis Chapman song, the dorkiest Stephen Curtis Chapman song of all time. Hopefully he doesn't watch this podcast. The Great Adventure. And I think that that's what it is to follow Christ and to be in a relationship with God. It is an adventure, and it's like him going along with you to love on people and to love on you, so that you can love on people with him. Like
and just remembering like, I'm not the, like, it would be arrogant of me to be like, I'm the only one that can love on these people because I know him. It's like, I've been so like totally felt the hands and presence of God through somebody else's generosity that's a total atheist. I'm like, wow, God, you totally use that person to bless my life. And like, you can use anybody.
That's so, what like, he's shown me that too, in such strong ways of like, you know, I used to think like, oh, like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like if that person, that couldn't have been God because that person, blah, blah, blah. Or you would like think that would, sadly, at times, think that person couldn't be used by God because they don't know God or because they're whatever. They're not on this path that you think that they would be to know God, which isn't our place to judge anyways. But I've definitely gotten in that myself. And then God's been like, I can use anyone. Like, and it's so humbling because it's like, it actually shows us that like I think he talks about it, probably, I don't know what the verse is, but he talks about, he can use like anyone that is allowing him to be, even some people aren't allowing, he just is using them because that's how he works. He can use anyone. But like, it is a beautiful thing to be used by God. And like, it can even be the thing that turns somebody into knowing God, is recognizing that they were used by God. And I just think that it's beautiful how he works because it's always a behind the scenes way that we don't expect.
100%. Yeah, definitely. There's just so much that's going on. I would say the city that I live in particular, every city has like, I would say kind of a spiritual presence, or whether it's a stronghold or it's something that we kind of struggle with. And I would say Hollywood is kind of, people always like equate it to like the Babylon. And I'm like, not far off. Like we have probably every kind of hedonistic thing that you can imagine going on here, and it's totally normalized. But I was like, but just like any city, it's like really you want to, there is a work of God in the middle of it. Like there is always, he is always at work, even when we don't see that and we don't know it. And so I'm like, there is a spiritualness. And I used to feel so frustrated, discouraged by it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just this mixture now. Everyone thinks that you can have every kind of God and it's totally acceptable. And I was like, all right, don't be discouraged. Like this is the curiosity that we need. This is the curiosity that I want to see in human beings, to search me and find me. And he's like, and believe me, I'm big enough to just, he's like, I'm big enough and smart enough and wise enough to like defend myself, because I constantly think I have to like, how do I defend the name of Jesus? And like, how do I show like he's the best and the only way and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really, he doesn't need my defense. He can do it for himself. But there is I think a reward in just living out of conviction. So if somebody's curious or somebody's talking or somebody invites you into the conversation, because I'm just not necessarily a big picketer of like, let's go around and just tell people there's like a heaven and a hell, and there's what you have to do. Like it's that's not really my way that it's not my style. Like, more power to you. That's your style. And God's asked you to do it. Sure. Not really my style. I'm more of the person who's like, I just want to be more relational, but also it's just, there is a sense of just like, how do you live, and what is your life state? Like if somebody looked at me I want to be known for giving all the credit to Jesus, because I'm not good enough on my own. I have no wisdom of my own, no brilliance, no beauty, no nothing apart from him. Like he really is the one that gives me anything that I'm considered good at, but I'm like, would my life be would it be a song, like, would it be like how, and again, I'm not living for that, because otherwise it's putting too much pressure on myself. I'm more just like, gotta take it day by day. Like, how do I honor you, God, with what I have today, whether it's an audition or it's on set or it's just at home in my house with my husband and our cat, or like, with my family, whatever it is, like, how am I honoring you with that and my talents, and how am I stewarding that? But like it's I think it's just I'm like, we all go through the exact same things. Like it's like whatever your career is.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool too how you recognize, like, it's something that one of the best mentors in my life has said, don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about how you're living your life. If you live your life with an integrity that is to the standards that you believe you should, and you're living with that, your own, like, you're living to live your life to the same, like, I'm basically saying the same 2 times
No,
over.
I love it. Yeah.
It is within itself, the people will be drawn to you and to ask, they're more receptive, I guess you could say, when they're coming out to you trying to like get what is your secret or what are you doing, or like wanting to emulate you because you're living that life within the set of standards that you believe you should, with your own integrity, than if you're like out there telling people that they should do this or they shouldn't do that or whatever. And this person, I don't know if they're a person of faith, but like the other thing that it reminded me of is that's what Jesus said what we were supposed to do, is live a life so that people would come to you and ask, what is your faith? What is it that you live a life like this, that you have love for other people, that the way that you love people, the way that you act. And I think often we focus so much on trying to preach a message instead of just living the message and people coming after us seeking like what is that in you. Because I think, and like you said, curiosity, I think Bible talks about coming to him with a childlike faith, and I think that the playfulness and the curiosity that children have is the natural, even no matter how old you are, it's the natural way that we take in information, and instead of taking it as like a defensive, like if somebody pushes something down your throat, you are gonna quickly not want to listen to it. But if you want people to be receptive of something, you just have to live a life with integrity, with obviously the Holy Spirit is the only way that we can do that. But when we do, like, that is where people will reach out and want to know what's different. And I think that is something beautiful that I have definitely told people that I admire about you, is how much you live your life in that integrity, because I think that it's unique with you, and that's why I recognize it, because we all struggle in our own ways, but it's very easy to focus on other people than focus on ourselves, and focus on the integrity that we should have for our own the own way that we're going to walk. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to share, to be vulnerable, and to share your journey in Hollywood and your faith. And I think that every time I talk to you, I learn more, just because I've known you forever, but you're that person that continues to grow, and you're just a humble person, that not in a false humility type way. Like, you have confidence, but you have humility, and you know where your confidence comes from. I call it confident humility. Where it comes from.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. That's great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to just be a part of this podcast and share so that people can connect.
So proud of you. This podcast is amazing. I'm so amazed that you're putting this together, and really excited about where it's going to go. And I feel like I know we could talk for hours and hours, and I have probably so many stories I wrote down and we should have talked about, but I just feel like this is so great, and hopefully we can do it again. But you're amazing, Holly. I feel like I've learned so much from just your consistency and your friendship with me too. And thank you for always just supporting me out here. It's meant so much, just knowing that I have a person that loves the Lord, but also loves me and supports me out here, and like challenges me, and would know, I feel very safe. You've always made me feel very safe with what I'm doing in my career. That's so kind of you.
It's mutual. Everyone feels that way again. I think friendships that have been this long and that have been through things, I think being able to challenge people in a good and healthy way is always like, the Bible say something, don't trust kisses from enemies can't be trusted, but wounds from friends.
My friends.
It's something about that. But it's like, I think that the more real you are with the people that are close to you, the more you know that there's somebody that you can trust. And it's always been that for me. So thank you
you've
so
always been super real. So love that about you. Keeping it real here on Holly's. Although we haven't even gotten to that. So much, everybody's stories are so probably in depth and long, but I'm really excited about what you're doing and how you're digging out just things that I feel like hopefully can make the world a little bit more understandable or a little more compassionate towards. And I think that's what's really exciting about this is I'm like, wow, we really get more compassion when we have more perspective, don't we?
Yeah.
So
empathy is to see things from other people's perspectives. Well, thank you. Stay tuned for next episodes on www.resilienceresourcing.com.